Hey everybody, it's Matt Shu from Upright Health, and in today's video I want to talk with you about what to do when the advice you're getting about the way your body moves and feels is getting really frustrating when you're going from appointment to appointment and different professionals are telling you, oh, well, you're getting old, or oh, you should just stop doing that, or no, you're broken and you need to just stop trying to do stuff like that. I know that's really frustrating. I've been there myself. I was there in my 20s, and I got really fed up with all that kind of, what I consider now nonsense. And I've now, as a result of being a trainer, have had this conversation with a lot of my clients. And I wanted to share a couple of these stories with you so that you get some perspective, so that you recognize that whatever frustrations you're going through, you're probably not alone in. And also, so you get some perspective that helps you make better decisions about your own body and your own life. So the first story I want to share with you is the story of Tom. So Tom I actually met with over Skype, and he lives over in the Middle East, and then basically he had a bunch of hip pain that he had since he was 13 years old. I mean, young. So his hips started to really bug him when he was 13. And we met over Skype when he was in his mid-30s. We actually only did one session. We just did a bunch of different stretches and things that he hadn't really done in any serious way before. And it drastically helped his hips. And so he shared this story with me, and it actually made me mad. I posted about this on Facebook. It actually made me really mad because basically at 13 he went to a bunch of different physicians, a bunch of different doctors, and everybody said, well, your hips are just kind of shot. And the end result between, from all these different appointments was a doctor telling him at 13 and his mother, well, you've just got bad hips, and so you're probably going to need a hip replacement by the time you're 30 years old. So that was pretty shocking bad news for him at that time. Now, fast forward to the mid-30s, he hasn't had a hip replacement. His hips have actually been getting better since he's been stretching them properly and adjusting how he trains his body. And he has, again, successfully avoided hip surgery. And that prognosis that physician gave him was completely off the mark. It had no bearing on reality, and I would argue actually had very little evidence to back it up. Of course, I wasn't there. I don't know what they saw, but in general, what we've seen over the years is that a lot of the things that get used to predict that somebody's going to really need a surgery, they're really kind of not great predictors. But that's a much longer topic for other videos. Now, the second story that I want to share with you is one from a client that I've been working with here in the Bay Area, and his name is Rajat. So Rajat had some hip problems. He was having pain around his glute, his low back, all kinds of stuff that was bugging him, and so he went to a pain specialist multiple times for multiple injections to try to solve his hip glute-ish area problem. And so what happened was he got an injection in one location, and then it didn't work. He got an injection in another location. It didn't work. Finally, the pain specialist said, okay, we're going to do it in this location, and that should solve your problem. So they did that third injection, and 2 days later, he got on the phone with the doctor, check in, see how things are going. And he said to the doctor basically, yeah, the pain's still there, it didn't help. And so the doctor's response wasn't like, okay, there's something wrong with our theory here. His response was, you must be lying to me. And so Rajat was actually taken aback and pretty shocked that the doctor would say, you're lying to me. And it's an understandable situation that for both of them to get upset. Obviously, as the patient who's in pain, to be told you're lying about your pain is a little bit annoying. And as a doctor, you are actually trying to solve somebody's problem. And if somebody seems like the problem just can't be solved, and you're doing everything that you can think of to solve the problem, and it's not working, that's obviously going to be frustrating. Of course, it's not very productive to say, hey, you're lying to me. And maybe that's a topic for another video, but basically you're running into a situation where you're hitting the limits of medical science's understanding of how pain works. And the reality is the medical system now, the medical knowledge now, doesn't really fully understand what pain means, doesn't know how to interpret it, and oftentimes turns it into something that means much more than it should. What you have to understand is that medical knowledge is constantly changing. Knowledge in general is constantly evolving. And so the beliefs and the systems that are in place now to help people with pain are not necessarily the ones that are the best. Our understanding of what pain means is changing. Consider even that there was a time in history when it was believed that the size of your skull was a pretty accurate predictor of your intelligence and personality. Some people even argued that since women tend to have smaller skulls, that they were necessarily dumber. Some people used to argue that slaves in the United States, if they had a really strong desire to be free, actually had a psychological disease that needed to be diagnosed. There's actually a name for it, which was drapetomania, in case you're interested. So there are a lot of things that are believed to be diseases, things that are believed to be pathological, approaches to treating these things that in the past seem to have made some sense, but now in the present don't make sense. So it's important to recognize that these knowledge bases are constantly evolving, and what you're facing with frustrating interactions with doctors is that, sometimes the actual approach no longer reflects reality appropriately and doesn't actually anticipate your needs as somebody who's trying to figure stuff out. So what can you do when you're getting into these frustrating conversations with other professionals who are trying to help you with pain? Well, the first thing is to understand that frustration is just kind of a natural part of the process of trying to figure stuff out with your body. And you don't want to assume that that frustration is going to carry over to anybody you talk with. So that means still be proactive, find somebody who can give you answers that are different than what you've heard, that help you make some progress in some direction, and that ultimately give you some power and control over what's going on with your body. So that's, to me, is one of the most important things, is understanding that you need to be taking a really proactive role in making your body move better. You are the only one who can train your body to move well. That's a huge, huge piece. The other piece of this is related to fear. Because in all this frustration, you're going to hear a lot of things that people say, if you do this, it's going to make you worse. If you do that, it's going to make you worse. If you do this, you're going to fall apart. And there's this great quote I came across last month, and it's by an actor from the early 20th century named Leland T. Powers. And the quote is, "Fear reverses all intelligent processes." So you don't want to let your fear guide all your decisions. It's okay to be aware that there are some risks involved with things that you're doing with your body, but you know what? Walking down the street, you might get hit by a car, or you might trip over a curb and fall down. Those are all risks. Those are all things that can happen that we see as negative events. And if you want to be prepared for stuff like that, you do need to gradually expose your body to more and more challenging training stimuli, so that your body is able to handle things that are a little more predictably unpredictable, right? So you want your body to be able to handle more and more stuff over time, instead of just fearing doing everything. Okay, so number one thing, don't let your frustration stop all motion. And then number two is, don't let fear guide all your motions, okay, and all your actions. So I hope this perspective helps you out. I hope these stories help you out and give you a little more perspective on what's going on in the world. And I hope that you continue to make progress on whatever you're trying to make progress on. And I hope you remember that pain sucks. Life shouldn't. If you liked the video, don't forget to like, share, and comment. And don't forget to subscribe.